coming on the air with a triple threat of very intense weather tonight. With the eye wall of Hurricane Beryl, we're just learning, brushing the coast of Jamaica in just the last couple of minutes. Extreme heat threatening millions across the U.S. over the holiday weekend. And the dangerous fire that could be getting worse out in California. We are live coast to coast and in the Caribbean in just a minute. Plus, the damage control to keep the dam from bursting open from the White House and the Biden campaign in what could be the most critical week of his presidency. The new call from an elected Democrat for him to step aside. As we're watching the president's speech live to see what he will say, that's just wrapping up. We'll bring it to you in a second. And the FDA investigating how mushroom-infused chocolates may have killed somebody. Plus, why Tom Hanks' son wants everyone to pump the brakes on white boy summer, with white supremacists now co-opting the phrase he came up with. Then, in tonight's original, how musicians are getting priced out of the city they built thanks to tons of tourism and a Nashville boom. That's later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and as we're coming on the air, we are learning that the eye wall of Hurricane Beryl is now hitting Jamaica's southern coast, which puts the country on the most dangerous side of the storm as we speak. Want to show you what it looks like with video that's just coming into us. This is tough to see here, and you're looking at, in fact, some people, not the right video there, but we will show you, in fact, some of the other video that we're seeing. Destruction, of course, across parts of the Caribbean as this storm has already turned deadly. We're expecting in Jamaica a storm surge of 6 to 9 feet. At least 7 people have been killed so far. The Jamaican Prime Minister is declaring the country a disaster area and ordering some folks to evacuate. Take a look at some of the streets. Our team on the ground was driving around Kingston. You can see those streets nearly empty. A curfew still in place for the next couple hours. With another big question, the next couple of days. Whether Beryl will make landfall in Mexico or somewhere along the coast of Texas at some point. Mexico's been getting more than 100 temporary shelters ready. They're shutting down schools tomorrow and Friday. And here at home, a different kind of dangerous weather is getting ready to hit a lot of the U.S. Dangerously hot temperatures in a blistering heat wave. 110 million of us set to sit in a heat warning or watch across 21 states during the 4th of July holiday. More than 130 records could be set through next week. And that could make a bad situation worse in Northern California, where thousands of people have been forced to evacuate. Look at this, that big wildfire burning through Oroville. You can see some of the smoke up there in the sky as of a few hours ago. This thing was 0% contained. Liz Kreutz is there. Bill Cairns has our forecast. But I want to start with Sam Brock in Kingston, Jamaica. So the eye wall now brushing the south coast. What are you seeing, Sam?
Yeah, so right now, Hallie, the eye wall and obviously Beryl at large here is about 60 miles to the west of Kingston. We kind of lucked out as the wind here is still picking up. We're going to get another gust coming through right now. These are the outer bands we're feeling after it's moved to our west and still sort of generating wind around. That is a reminder how bad it could have been, because Kingston was within about 50 or 60 miles of the core of Beryl. There was obviously questions from the National Hurricane Center about whether or not it was going to pass by the southern portion of Jamaica or go over it. If it went over or close enough to Kingston, and this is a population center, you would have had a situation where people were looking at hurricane-force winds of 100, 120 miles an hour that could have done some real damage to buildings here. Instead, we dodged that bullet as we were having all these conversations with folks about whether or not they were going to leave their homes or not. The mayor of Kingston, Hallie, was out there today posting video onto Twitter showing his efforts to try to convince people to leave where they were and get onto a bus to go to a shelter, and no one wanted to go. And some of these areas near the airport, that's actually where we did our live report with you yesterday, not far from that. That was an area where it's a real thin highway, and the storm surge was just coming right over the highway as you listen to some metal scraps around me banging around here with the wind. Thankfully, nobody that we're aware of was hurt. The Office of Emergency Management has not been overly communicative in terms of status right now, but the 7 deaths that we have confirmed from other parts of the Caribbean, obviously extremely sobering. But just the sheer infliction of that level of damage and destruction, there is no signs or communication from the government to this point that we're seeing that right now. Just right now, some bending trees. We're getting these gusts coming in, 30, 40 miles an hour, maybe a little more than that, but nothing like what we were fearing 24 hours ago.
Well, so talk to us about what else you're seeing as far as it relates to what you just mentioned, Sam. When we talked to you 24 hours ago, you were like sort of surprised at how people were not leaving. It obviously seems like the situation has changed, at least to a degree. We saw some of the video from your team, empty streets. It feels like people are maybe respecting the curfew. Is that what you've noticed?
Yeah, there was definitely fewer people than one would typically expect, downtown Kingston on a normal Wednesday or Tuesday or what have you. I did have conversations with folks who explained that their biggest concern, and I talked to two women, a mom and her niece that were leaving a market with big bags of food. I asked them if they were worried about the stability of their home, their safety, and no. They were concerned about communications and specifically the ability to have electricity for folks that really need it, like the elderly folks and populations, vulnerable populations in hospitals and care centers. And so they say that it doesn't take much to go offline. Our hotel here did actually go up, but we do have a generator. Many places in Jamaica do not. And so we got a little bit of the sense of urgency from them. Take a listen to what those two women, Andrea and Brianna, told me.
I've been through this.
How does it usually go?
Just as how it goes. I'm right here to test the money.
Not everybody can afford generators. Not everybody can afford solar. So for the one that live in the inner city like us, we just have to give thanks and praise that the water and the light don't go away.
Our flashlights, our headlights.
We do know, according to the Office of Emergency Management, Hallie, that about 70 people were ultimately evacuated and taken to a local shelter. I did reach out to the Kingston Parish disaster coordinator to find out how many they have open. It was 20-plus shelters earlier today.
Okay.
At the time, the man told me that they were not full, but that could be changing at this point in time.
Sam Brock, thank you very much for that. And Sam, to be clear for our viewers, you are in a safe location and your camera person is in a safe location, right? Just so we can confirm that.
100%. Real quickly, they're behind a wall where they're not getting affected by any of the wind and any of the rain. I just stand out and get rained on.
All right, come back in. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate you. Let me bring in Liz Kreutz, who's out there for us in California, because we talked about the flooding, the rain, the wind in Jamaica. Very different situation here at home with that heat, making it very difficult to fight this wildfire where you are. Looking behind you, it's devastating. When it looks like snow, you know it's a bad one.
Hallie, for sure. I mean, this is a massive fire here. Firefighters are battling it during triple-digit temperatures. Last update from CAL FIRE, the fire has grown to more than 3,500 acres. It is 0% contained, and you can see the destruction that is done right here. There have been several homes destroyed. This one here in the city of Oroville, you can see the fireplace now exposed. These two cars here burned to a crisp, and it's just really awful destruction that we've seen. Thousands of people in this community evacuated yesterday and overnight, just before the July 4th holiday. It's a very scary situation here as well, Hallie, because of the fact that we are battling this during triple-digit temperatures as well. And all of that is a concern as these firefighters continue to try to get a hold of this blaze.
It's not the only one. I mean, it's one of at least a dozen that are still burning across the state there. Walk through sort of what is next and how stretched those first responders may or may not be.
Yeah, so this is one of several fires, as you mentioned, across the state and the western region right now. You mentioned it earlier. I think the latest update is 120 million people across the country right now are under these heat alerts. Here in California, 4 million people are under what's called a red flag warning. And this is when there's conditions that make fire danger extremely high. High heat, low humidity, strong winds. And those winds, I feel them right now. This is the time of day that they are starting to pick up. It makes it even more challenging for firefighters. Here's what a spokesperson for CAL FIRE had to say about how this heat is making it so hard for the crews on the ground here.
Anybody would know that it's tough to do things outdoors when it's warm. So think about the firefighters that are doing that, but they're doing difficult, arduous work, wearing long sleeve coats, helmets, and really heavy warm clothing. So it does make it a challenge.
And we know that 8 firefighters, Hallie, were injured fighting this fire, some of them from heat-related illnesses. In anticipation of the fire danger here, PG&E, the electric utility, has preemptively cut off power to thousands of people across the state right now. This is a precautionary measure that they've done in recent years to try to mitigate fire danger. But, of course, no power during a heat wave brings its own set of challenges for so many people, Hallie.
No kidding. Liz Kreutz, thank you very much. Watching all of it, I know, for this holiday week. Appreciate it. Let me bring in Bill Cairns now. Okay, we talked about all those records that are going to be set over the next few days. Feels like there's not a lot of relief in sight for folks.
No, and this isn't your normal July heat wave. So, Hallie, July is the hottest month just about every location in the country. And so when you break a record in July, you're talking the chance of breaking all-time records, not just the month of July, but for the, ever recorded at these locations. So now we're up to 120 million people, because we just added the Washington, D.C. area to the heat advisory. Okay. This is hot and humid from Arkansas to Memphis down through the Mississippi. And then this is dry heat and just extremely hot throughout areas of the West, where we're going to have, dozens and dozens of records broken in as we head through the weekend. And through the South, it's just endless. The humidity is just, 115 in a few places, we'll feel like in the afternoon. So let's talk specifics. So this has been today. We're about 110 from Fresno up to Redding, including where that fire is located. Hottest day we've had in about 2 or 3 years for interior California. And it gets hotter. Sacramento is going to be about 110 through Saturday. Palm Springs, about 120 from Thursday, Friday into Saturday. And that hot weather continues in the South. And the one heat stat to watch, Las Vegas. The hottest temperature ever in Las Vegas is 117 degrees. They have a chance, they're forecast to tie that on Sunday and possibly set their all-time hottest ever recorded day on Monday. This is not your average heat wave. This is exceptional.
Well, we always say it a lot. Summer's hot. This is unusual. What's also unusual is the earliest Category 5 hurricane that we've seen on record in the Atlantic. But that's what we've got with Hurricane Beryl, which I believe is now a Cat 4. You saw Sam's live shot there, Bill. What's your sense of where this goes and what it means for Texas and Mexico?
Yeah, for everyone that has concerns about Jamaica, do not judge what you saw in the Kingston or anything on social media you see from the Kingston and Eastern. It's 140 miles from the western tip to the eastern tip. The storm was further away when it was near the eastern tip, but notice how it's been gaining to the north, and now it is right along the south coast. There are millions of dollars worth of damage being done as I speak on the south coast, because they are in that northern eye wall. They are possibly seeing winds gusts 120 to 140 miles per hour. That's where the destruction is going to be. The sun is setting. You won't see those pictures tonight. You'll start to see them tomorrow. So don't be surprised. Everyone's like, Jamaica, they got brushed. They were fine. And then tomorrow, all of a sudden, we may see things destroyed and be like, oh, wait, thousands of people lost their homes, because that's where the storm is the worst here, from Black River down here to Rocky Point, which is located right here. So that's what we're watching. As far as where we're going with this, as we head throughout the extended forecast, we're taking it south of the Cayman Islands. Then we're going to take it into the Yucatan. And eventually, we're going to have to deal with this Sunday night somewhere either northern Mexico or southern Texas. We have a little more consensus, Hallie, that it's going to be somewhere between Brownsville and Tampico. We're not ruling out direct impacts in Texas, so we're still going to prepare for it. And right now, it looks like either a strong tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane. Not the beast that it is now. But I've told you many times, and I'll tell you the entire hurricane season, intensity forecasting is less than ideal. Usually we know where they're going, but a lot of the times these storms don't behave as we'd expect.
Bill Cairns, lots to watch for you over the course of the next couple days. Thanks for being with us. Back here in Washington, a lot of developing news here with yet another public call now for the president to step aside off the presidential ticket from a sitting Democratic lawmaker, as President Biden, in just about an hour from now, is set to meet with Democratic governors at the White House. Here's the deal. You've now got this Arizona congressman becoming only the second House Democrat to say, hey, President Biden should drop out. That's in an interview with the New York Times in just the last hour. Even as the president's telling his staff he's not gonna. In a call today, he says, no one is pushing me out. According to an official on the line, he says, I'm not leaving. The White House, the campaign, pushing back on reports that privately the president's talking to at least one ally about whether or not to even stay in the race, with his chief of staff telling the team to tune out the intense noise as the president faces the biggest challenge of his term yet politically, all triggered by what's being widely panned as a disastrous debate performance. Listen.
The president is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race.
There are a number of rumors floating out there. The president is in this race to win it.
Now, outside the White House, this view, we love you, Joe, and your candidacy from a couple of demonstrators. But behind the scenes, there really hasn't been a huge push today from lawmakers on the Hill to really close ranks around President Biden in a vigorous way. And now you've got damage control in full-on mode. Look at this. All these calls, staff, governors, etc. Lunch between the president and the vice president today. That's interesting, considering some of the speculation is about whether she would take the top of the ticket if President Biden drops out. And then this new polling showing support for the president slipping since the debate. We've got team coverage. I want to start with Monica Alba with the latest from the White House. And just in the last maybe 20 minutes or so, the president wrapped up an event at the White House. Did not take questions from reporters. Monica, talk us through what his night looks like and where this goes in the next couple of days.
I think that meeting with Democratic governors is going to be really critical, Hallie. Unfortunately for us, it is taking place behind closed doors. It will not be on camera, but the governors that we've been in touch with at least indicate that means hopefully this will be a candid conversation where they may have a lot of questions that they want to raise to the president about his current thinking, about what happened on the debate stage, and about really just them wanting to hear directly from him what the deal is and what has happened these last few days and what the path forward looks like. So I do think it will be critical because, of course, some of those governors include people who very likely will want to run for the Democratic ticket in the future, and some of whom are even being speculated as being key players should President Biden decide to step down, which for now he is really saying completely emphatically that he will not do that. And on this campaign call that he did take part in, which I think tells you a lot too, Hallie, because he wasn't supposed to be on it. The vice president joined as well. He said this really frankly. He said, no one is pushing me out and I'm not leaving. And he pledged to stay in this until November, to be the nominee. And he pledged to win. That was at least his message to the campaign staff in Wilmington, who also had been raising some questions about what the next couple of days are going to look like.
What's also interesting here, Mon, is as we talk about that event just a couple of minutes ago, who was in the room for that? Hunter Biden. Not unusual, right, to see maybe a family member of a president at an event. I think about the Easter egg roll, whatever. You can see Hunter Biden there on that video. But it does take on maybe a new significance given your reporting over the last couple of days that yesterday, I think it was, Hunter was in meetings, or at least was at the West Wing rather than, for example, the residence. Perhaps an indication of this schism that's been sort of percolating between campaign staff, family members, as this crisis has now become all-consuming.
I think that's a completely fair assessment. And while you're right to note that Hunter Biden is sometimes at various events, and we were told that he was going to be here this week specifically because he normally joins his father for the 4th of July celebrations that we're going to see play out publicly tomorrow, and likely he will be quite visible. I think it is significant that after our reporting yesterday that he was taking part in some eyebrow-raising conversations with some senior staff who, in the words of one of them, essentially the response was, what the hell is happening? That was very unusual to some people who had observed this behavior. And then the White House confirmed that basically since returning from Camp David on Monday, Hunter Biden had accompanied his father, at least in one instance, they confirmed specifically, to a speech prep session ahead of those remarks on the Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity. But overall, the context of this is exactly what you pointed to. The fact that his immediate family is now taking a more active role, it appears, in either some of these conversations or in some of the framing or the decision making, does suggest that they are really, you know, the ones that the president turns to and leans on most heavily in these really consequential moments. Hallie.
Monica Alba live for us there outside the White House, just doing an incredible job reporting on all this, Mon, with so much of it happening behind closed doors. Thank you. Ryan Nobles is doing the same as it relates to what's going down on Capitol Hill. What's interesting to me, Monica talks about that governor's call that's going to happen in a bit. Privately, of course, it's a phone call. The concern from some, especially in the beat that you cover, that they have not heard from President Biden directly. Like, where's it been? This is too little, too late. Now coming out Wednesday, nearly a week after that widely panned debate performance, now the president's coming out and speaking publicly. Their argument is that he should have been doing this days ago. I wonder if that's coming up on another call that's happening as we speak right now with House Democratic leaders.
Yeah, the House Democratic leadership is having a phone call right now. I'm told it's between 6 and 7 of the highest-ranking members of the House Democratic caucus, where they're going to have a frank conversation about what's happened here.
Is it normal for them to have a discussion on the evening before a holiday?
Absolutely not. This was not a scheduled call. This call took place because of the situation that they find themselves in, and that's a great and important point that you make. It comes at the same time that you see House Democrats talking about this situation. Only 2 of them have specifically said that they think the president should step down, but you'd be hard-pressed to find an elected leader right now giving a full-throated endorsement of President Biden staying in the race. I talked to Mike Quigley earlier today, an Illinois congressman, someone who's been a long supporter of President Biden, says he admires President Biden. But listen to his assessment of where things stand right now.
So the rigors he talked about just now leading up to this debate are frankly the normal rigors of being the president of the United States. I think he can handle that. Of great concern is, can he handle that? The polling at best shows that he's stayed where he was. Well, he's got to move up in those polls. And how do you convince voters who saw what they saw Thursday?
And I'm hearing this a lot. You know, the White House claiming that the polls really haven't shifted all that much. Maybe they've gone down a little bit. They were losing to begin with. Now they put themselves in an even more difficult position.
The other piece of this, too, you know, the consternation, I think, from some of the folks that you've talked to and I've talked to on the Hill is about the down ballot races. What this means, if President Biden does remain at the top of the ticket, is it a drag down ballot for all important, of course, the Democrats' control of the Senate, which they have, and the House, which they do not. And this idea, you know, talk to us about this Arizona congressman, his district, because this idea, as you and I talked about yesterday, that Lloyd Doggett says 10 to 1 he's hearing from voters in his district who say they don't want President Biden to be on top of the ticket. There's this sense that maybe this is, I think from some allies of the president, this is a, you know, this will all blow over. This is a media, D.C. story, whatever. You know, there's a question mark.
I mean, they all care about the country. They care about the president. They care about the party. But their self-preservation is their #1 priority. I think that's a fair assessment of most politicians. And we've known for some time that the frontliners, that group of individuals that are in the most competitive districts, were really concerned about what they saw on the debate stage. But it is a delicate balance for them because no matter what, if you're in a frontline district where it could go either way at the top of the ticket, you are tied to the direction of where the top of the ticket goes. So if they end up in a situation where President Biden is still the nominee, they cannot run away from him. That's why I don't think you've seen too many of them come out publicly and say what they're saying privately, that they're very concerned about President Biden being at the top of the ticket. But they're going to have to navigate that reality no matter what decision he makes.
Although 2 of them in some of the most competitive, vulnerable districts, Trump districts, have said they think Donald Trump's going to win. These Democrats that are like, hey, you know, I will say it's a holiday, 4th of July, though. A lot of parades, and there's always a local politician marching in your local parade. Like, this story may not go away tomorrow. Just
they are going to hear from their constituents in a big way over the next couple of days, and that could really decide the way this ends up going.
Ryan Nobles, thank you. Busy week for you. Appreciate it. There is also political drama overseas tonight, with Britain's leaders making their closing arguments before voters head to the polls tomorrow to elect a new parliament. And in the process, a new prime minister who will become the leader of one of America's closest allies. Polls suggest it's going to be a landslide, with the center-left Labour Party expected to win big, maybe winning its biggest majority ever and tossing the Conservatives out of power after 14 years. Now, the leader of whichever party wins will end up leading the country, meaning Labour head Keir Starmer may become Britain's next prime minister. Raf Sanchez is joining us now. Bring us up to speed. For those of us, you know, telling on a friend, myself here, who have been immersed in, like, United States political coverage, how did Britain get to where it is at this point where Labour seems to be on the brink of this huge sort of rise?
So, Hallie, we are in the last 24 hours of this lightning fast compared to the United States 6-week British election. 24 hours from now, we will have a pretty good sense who is going to walk through that famous black door of 10 Downing Street as Britain's prime minister. And as you said, the polls are telling a very, very convincing story that it is going to be Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party. And what we are finding is not so much that there is overwhelming support for Labour, overwhelming enthusiasm for Keir Starmer, as much as people here are just exhausted after 14 years of Conservative government, the last 8 of which, Hallie, have been a period of unprecedented political chaos in this country. You'll remember the 2016 Brexit referendum when people here voted to leave the European Union. Since then, you have had 4 Conservative prime ministers forced to resign. That includes Boris Johnson, forced out of office after breaking his own COVID lockdown rules, attending illegal parties here at Downing Street. Liz Truss, who was only in office for 44 days, her policies nearly crashing the British economy. And so people are turning now to Starmer. He is seen as capable, he is seen as competent, and he is seen as a safe pair of hands. Hallie?
Okay, so let's say it does end up being Prime Minister Starmer. What would that mean for the relationship with the United States?
So it's really interesting. Starmer is a centrist. He is someone who supports NATO. He is someone who supports Western support for Ukraine. Every indication is, in terms of personality, in terms of politics, in terms of policy, he would be very compatible with President Biden. But 6 months from now, you could have a Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, sitting across the table from a second-term President Trump, who has very different views on that. We spoke to Labour's campaign chief earlier, and we asked him, does Keir Starmer have what it takes to stand up to Donald Trump if he tries to take the United States out of NATO, if he tries to cut Western support for Ukraine? This labor official told us Starmer will stand up for what he believes in. He will keep the weapons. He will keep the money flowing to Ukraine. He has already spoken a number of times in the last year to Jake Sullivan. And if he does win, we expect that on Friday, one of his first phone calls will be with President Biden. Hallie?
So interesting. Raf Sanchez, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Coming up here on the show, the holiday travel nightmare waiting for you if you hit the road right now. Sorry, where to expect the bottlenecks. And the new 9-digit deal for LeBron, who's making it official that he and his son will be Lakers. We've got more on that in just a second. So as we speak right now, this hour, we are in the middle of what AAA describes as the peak of the holiday travel rush for the whole week. And it is a record setter, folks, up 5% from last year, with nearly 71 million of us heading out of town. At the airports, 500,000 more people than last year, with the TSA screening something like 2.5 million folks just yesterday. But a lot of those travelers may be heading into some really rough weather with, as we talked about, suffocating heat and intense storms in multiple parts of the country. I want to bring in NBC's Priya Sridhar, who's following all of this from one of the busiest airports in the world, Atlanta. All right. Is it a mess? Is it not so bad? What's the deal?
Well, Hallie, one of the things that this airport prides itself on is not just being the world's busiest, but also being the most efficient. And so far, things seem to be going pretty well today. The TSA administrator tells us that the busiest times at the airports are between 5 and 7 in the morning and 4 and 7 p.m. in the evening. So it does feel like things are picking up just a little bit. In addition to Atlanta, if you are heading out to either the Denver or the Dallas-Fort Worth airports, those are also expected to round out the top 3 as far as the busiest airports during the July 4th holiday travel period. But the TSA says, listen, we're prepared for it. Out of the top 10 busiest travel days on record ever, 8 of them have been in 2024. So they say that they've been prepared for this. It seems like every single holiday we're experiencing, we're just breaking records. So they've actually moved volunteer TSA agents to other airports across the country who aren't as necessarily equipped for these high volume of passengers. And just to give you an idea of delays right now, we've had almost 3,000 flight delays today, but compared to yesterday, it was almost 5,000. So things are looking pretty good so far, Hallie.
Okay, what about this idea that's gotten a lot of attention this week in particular, with people maybe heading out for July 4th, but still doing the work from home thing, the idea of quiet vacationing? What's that about? What's the vibe?
Yeah, so this is like kind of a cool, interesting phenomenon. As you mentioned, work from home has given us a little bit more flexibility, and more than half of Gen Z and millennial workers that were polled said that they are quiet vacationing, which means that they're working away from their homes, but without really requesting the official paid time off. A lot of them said that they feel this pressure to constantly be productive and available, and they also expressed some kind of anxiety and nervousness when asking for paid time off. And so a lot of the experts that this poll sort of surveyed said that that can be kind of a red flag when it comes to workplace culture. You want your employees to feel empowered to ask for time off, especially because that can actually make them feel more loyal to the company that they work for and also more productive. But I think one thing with this specific holiday that made things a little bit more interesting was that July 4th fell on a Thursday. So a lot of people said, hey, why not take that Friday away from home too and kind of extend it into a little bit of a long weekend, Hallie.
Priya Sridhar, live for us there in Atlanta, doing the opposite of quiet vacationing, I guess, as we all are. Thank you, Priya. Appreciate it. So tonight's Original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's the cost of living hitting one hotspot hard, with America's music capital more popular than ever, thanks to those Nashville destination concerts, all those bachelorettes. But while that explosive growth may be good for tourists, locals are feeling the pinch, spending more on, well, everything just to get by. Our Kathy Park reports.
Nashville built its foundation on music. But these days, it's becoming harder and harder for many musicians to live there, as Music City has transformed into one of the nation's fastest growing boom towns, with a record 16.8 million visitors last year, adding nearly 90 people a day to its population. And it's not just people. Amazon, AllianceBernstein, and soon Oracle will be calling Nashville home.
18 years ago, we had more people than we had jobs. Now we have more jobs than we have people.
Experts say companies are drawn to Tennessee's business-friendly environment, relocating from expensive and dense locations. Another perk? No state income tax for workers.
And if it wasn't for the city, we wouldn't be as successful as we are.
Brian Fuente, a singer turned entrepreneur, launched AeroBuild, a company that builds mobile businesses.
A lot of craftsmanship that goes in each one.
30% of their workforce is made up of musicians.
The production team only works 4-day work weeks, so on the weekends they're playing music.
It's a model that helps strike a balance for employees like Dustin Bothwell, a singer who struggles to keep up with the high cost of living.
Houses are bought and you get an eviction notice. You know, it's harder to live here as an artist than it used to be, I feel like. I've only been here 6 years.
According to a recent Redfin analysis and the latest home prices, a family needed to earn roughly $129,000 a year to afford the median price home worth $478,000.
It has become unaffordable.
Jalen Raymer is feeling the crunch too after moving her cowboy hats and boots business from New York City to Nashville in 2020.
You want to try it all for me?
But corporate events and tourists have helped her small shop thrive.
They're ready to go downtown and giddy up and have a great old time down in Vegas.
Some say the heartbeat of Nashville is right here in the Broadway district, seeing even more growth with the popularity of country music.
Jolene, Jolene.
It's good to see the redevelopment, but it's a little hectic.
A city soaring to new heights, but on the way up, feeling the growing pains.
A few of my favorite spots have had to disappear because of the growth. I kind of miss the charm.
Do you think city planners underestimated Nashville's growth?
I think it would be a rare person that told you they expected the growth to be like this.
Kathy Park is joining us now. I mean, been to Broadway, right? Nashville's a fun spot. Yeah. It's also super popular, not just, you know, all year round, but especially here 4th of July, big music celebration, right? Talk us through that piece of it.
Yeah, so, Hallie, Nashville hosts one of the largest July 4th fireworks shows in the country, and this year it'll be headlined by country music star Chris Young. And every year they see more than 200,000 spectators. And when you look at the numbers from last year, the event generated $11.6 million in visitor spending alone. Organizers are anticipating another big turnout tomorrow, but of course, weather is always a wild card with these outdoor events. But, Hallie, a lot of folks are still looking forward to it.
Kathy Park, thank you very much. Good to see you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Delta apologizing today after a flight was diverted because passengers were served food that had gone bad. Spoiled food. The plane was going from Detroit to Amsterdam. It ended up at JFK Airport in New York unexpectedly. The fire department there says first responders treated a dozen passengers. It's not clear how many people altogether ended up eating the bad food, but Delta says it's looking into it. Number 2, people taking Ozempic and Wegovy, those popular weight loss drugs, may have an increased risk of developing a debilitating eye condition that can make you go blind, according to a new study. It looked at the medical records of patients who either had diabetes, were overweight, or had obesity, and found people who were prescribed semaglutide had a higher rate of developing the condition than those who were not. Researchers say they need to do more studies to see if there actually is a link here. People with type 2 diabetes, remember, already had a higher risk for this. Number 3, Hatch Baby recalling nearly 1 million power adapters because of a shock hazard. If you have the Rest first-generation sound machine, you just saw it there. It's sold on Amazon, at Target, etc. You got to look into this. Hatch says it had nearly a dozen reports of the plastic covering around that adapter coming off. The company says customers should unplug this thing right away, stop using them, get in touch for a free replacement. Number 4, Bob's Stores is shutting down. You know Bob's, the discount clothing chain? They filed for bankruptcy. So now watch out for those liquidation sales. Bob's has been in business for 70 years. Number 5, LeBron James agreeing to a 2-year get ready for this, $104 million maximum contract with the Lakers. That also includes a no-trade clause. It's going to be his 22nd NBA season. And if you're like, well, why wouldn't he want to get traded? Well, his son, of course, Bronny, was just drafted by the Lakers. They will now become the first father-son duo in NBA history to play on the same team. Later on in the show, more and more folks having trouble getting an emergency responder on the phone in an emergency. We're breaking down the country's growing 911 outage issue and how a waitress chasing some dine and dashers ended up in a nearby lake. Yeah, that one's in the local. Tonight, a slogan coined by the son of a Hollywood star has turned into a global call to action for far-right extremists, according to a new report out today. We're talking about Chet Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, and the song White Boy Summer that he put out a couple years ago, 2021. At the time, pretty cringy, some profanities, some slurs. But since then, the phrase has morphed into a slogan for white supremacists and other hate groups, according to the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. Chet Hanks, just late today, posting this on Instagram. He says, White Boy Summer was created to be fun, playful. Anything else that it has been twisted into to support any kind of hate or bigotry against any group of people is deplorable, and I condemn it. Rahima Ellis is joining us now. How did this happen? How did so-called White Boy Summer end up co-opted by these white supremacists and others?
It seems catchy for white supremacists, just like the term White Lives Matter. It seems catchy. And as you point out, that this group, the group called the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism, which was founded by some former members of the Southern Poverty Law Center, they're about tracking what's going on in this country as far as hate and anti-Semitism is concerned. And they noticed that there were thousands of posts using this slogan that appeared on something called the Telegraph app this year, associated with white supremacy. And Chet Hanks, he became disturbed about it, and he put out that post today that this is not something that he condones. In fact, he points out to the fact that at the end of his music video, he has a shirt, and I think we have a picture of him wearing this shirt. On the back of the shirt, it says, "Stop Hate" T-shirt. So he's trying to say clearly there that he's not in favor of what white supremacists are doing with his slogan.
This is also not the first time that something that was never intended to be, a flag for extremist groups ended up co-opted, like a slogan, a phrase, an image, or whatever, for something that wasn't in its intended meaning.
Yeah, it's really true. There's a phrase called Pepe the Frog. It was a comic book character that white supremacists latched onto, and the creator of that cartoon character was so incensed by it, he took it down and basically killed, if you will, the character itself. But that didn't stop people from continuing to use it. There's also a Celtic cross that has been used by white supremacists. And it seems in some measure there's very little that people can do to stop this. As much as they try, it seems to be spreading. And what's more disturbing to some people, it seems to be moving into conservative events, even like that banner that you showed at your intro and to me, where someone was, the guy was raising a flag that said White Boy Summer. That flag was presented at a conservative rally in Detroit just last month. Donald Trump was the keynote speaker at that event, along with several conservative members of Congress, including J.D. Vance and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hallie?
Rahima Ellis, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Southern Bureau in Florida, officials have now recovered the body of a boater who went overboard after a crash with a barge this morning. Police and the Coast Guard searched for hours. One other passenger on the boat was hurt in this accident. Also out of our Southern Bureau, police in Missouri are looking for a group who attacked a waitress who says this group pulled her into a lake after she confronted them about not paying their bill. The service says these people got angry after she refused to serve alcohol to one person who didn't have an ID. I want to show you, if you saw it there, she ran up to the dock after they ordered food and didn't pay. There she is. They took off in their boat, but as they did, one of them grabbed her and pulled her into the water. Police say they're now treating this as an assault case. And out of our Western Bureau, wildlife officials are looking for an endangered rodent from South America spotted in a park in Colorado. This is the Patagonian mara. It is definitely not native to Colorado. Officials think it might be somebody's escaped pet. Tonight, new scrutiny on a service that could be life-saving. Those wireless networks that connect our emergency calls when we're in trouble. Networks in the spotlight recently for big outages. Like, remember that massive AT&T one back in February? Lasted like half a day. This is becoming a growing concern for 911 call centers, they say, all around the country. And in tonight's breakdown, our Brian Chung takes a closer look.
In an emergency, you know to call 911.
911, where's your emergency?
But what happens if you can't? That nightmare scenario recently playing out several times across the country.
Massive nationwide cell phone outage.
What if I can't call 911? What do I do now? And that's what causes me sleepless nights.
Just last month, 911 emergency systems were down across Massachusetts for hours. And in April, an installation of a light pole cut out service, leading to issues calling 911 in at least 3 states. But most notable this year, a nationwide outage in February cutting AT&T service for thousands of customers for about half a day. AT&T apologized to customers and said it was implementing changes to prevent a repeat.
So as soon as the call comes in, it shows up on this map.
Tony Rose is the Deputy Director of Emergency Services in Charles County, Maryland. While not impacted by those major events this year, he's noticed problems becoming more frequent.
Because we've transitioned from old technology, the old copper phone line system, to this new IP network world that we live in, right, with smart devices.
So where are these problems coming from?
Could be human error. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a mechanical failure.
But either way, are outages across the board increasing in frequency in your view?
Yes.
Authorities are taking a look as well. In addition to a Federal Communications Commission investigation into the February AT&T issue, New York State said it would probe the telecom provider as well. Just last week, the FCC said Verizon Wireless would pay over $1 million for a 911 outage in 2022 that prevented hundreds of calls from completing, putting pressure on the companies to improve.
There's a matter of investment on the part of the carriers to ensure greater network reliability.
Rose says families need to plan for emergency situations where you can't reach 911. Among the recommendations, a landline, Wi-Fi calling, using a phone on another carrier, or the SOS feature on select phones if available, which basically uses roaming or satellites in emergencies.
Worst case scenario is know where the closest fire station or police station is at.
Whatever you do, don't call 911 just to test if it works. That could clog up resources. Rose says just like dialing 911 has become an instinct, so should planning for the worst case scenario when you can't.
Typically with a hurricane, you have at least 72 hours of notice that is coming. In a 911 disruption or carrier disruption, there's no notice.
Brian is joining us now. So interesting, Brian. Talk to us about whether there's any collaboration now between the government, the carriers, these call centers, et cetera. Where does that stand?
Yeah, and Tony Rose, who you heard from there, he's in Charles County. He was saying that his county, in addition to a number of other emergency call centers in other counties in the metropolitan Washington region, they get together on a regular basis with the carriers themselves as well as other officials in the government to talk about these types of issues and just general hygiene and making sure that they can prevent those types of outages from happening in the future. Now, AT&T tells NBC News that in that February 22nd incident, it tried to prioritize getting back up FirstNet. This is basically a communications channel that first responders use to talk to each other. But again, there are some much needed questions about the overall infrastructure, something that maybe Congress can address with dollars specifically into next gen 911. This is an effort to try to turn the 911 system into something a little bit more modernized where you can even text it, which would be very important for accessibility for those that might have disabilities. That means that this is really an all-team effort here, Hallie.
Brian Chung, thank you. Still to come here on the show, the mushroom candy people said was making them sick, now possibly to blame for somebody's death. Our medical experts are all over this one. We've got the update on what you should know next. We're learning today the FDA is now investigating a death that might be linked to those now recalled mushroom chocolates we've told you about. Remember, people were getting really sick after eating this candy from the brand Diamond Shrooms. Some people, at least, throwing up, having seizures, even blacking out. 48 people say they had some of these very severe symptoms after eating the candy. 27 ended up in the hospital. Now, the manufacturer, Profit Premium Blends, did not immediately respond to our request for comment. But again, the FDA is now investigating apparently a death. Dr. Natalie Azar is joining us now. How did this go so wrong, apparently?
Yeah, I know. You know, the FDA and the CDC are both investigating and sending out a lot of health alerts about these products. The company, the manufacturer, has basically said that the compound that is in these products that is making people sick is this thing called muskimol, which probably is not familiar to most people. It is derived from a certain, family or genus of mushrooms, and can be very toxic and even fatal at high doses. It can cause changes in behavior, in mood, in perception, in cognition. It's scary, right? I mean, but this is one of those things, again, where this industry is not necessarily regulated. And so whether or not this was intentional or adulterated, I think the FDA is going to eventually let us know.
What about, mushroom is one of those things that you see a lot, like on the algorithm, whatever, like mushroom this, whatever that, coffee, etc. What about other products that are not this, that are out there? Should people have concerns about those too, or no reason for that yet?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I think it's one of those things where we don't know what we don't know. And, there was just a recent article in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, and these experts have really been calling for state and federal regulators to take a very clear stance on, first of all, whether or not it's even legal to sell or manufacture anything with this compound muskimol in it. And if it is deemed to be legal, there needs to be, things like maximum dose and child-proof packaging and things like that. Like, Hallie, I always say to our viewers and to patients alike, it is a little bit of like the wild, wild west, and, buyer beware in terms of these kinds of products. What you see on the label is not necessarily what is in these things. And this is a lesson really that has been learned the hard way for the dozens of people who've become ill and even hospitalized. And unfortunately, with this one death, the FDA will be investigating to see if it is in fact directly related to this product.
Dr. Natalie Azar, good words of wisdom. Thank you very much. Still ahead, is plant-based meat sizzling out? While you may not see it at your 4th of July barbecue tomorrow. It is the kickoff to the famous Nathan's hot dog eating contest today, starting with a weigh-in ahead of the main event tomorrow. You see some of the contenders there, but noticeably missing this guy, the man synonymous with this tradition, Joey Chestnut. 16 hot dog eating titles under his belt, but he's not going to be competing because of his endorsement deal this year with a Nathan's competitor, a plant-based faux meat company. But even with high-profile backers, vegan meat generally seems to be struggling lately. Think about it. Are you having it at your 4th of July barbecue? CNBC's Kate Rogers crunched the numbers. She's got more.
Champion eater Joey Chestnut made headlines this summer for signing on as an ambassador for alt-meat company Impossible Foods, taking him out of contention for the Nathan's eating competition. He's won in the past more than a dozen times, but it remains to be seen if other customers get in on the plant-based barbecue action this holiday. The pandemic provided a big boost to the plant-based meat sector, but it's not been one that's sustainable due to varying challenges for the industry. The Good Food Institute, which is a nonprofit think tank tracking the industry, outlines taste, texture, and pricing as 3 key hurdles to overcome in its latest report of 2023 trends. Now, overall plant-based meat and seafood sales, it says, were down 13% over the last 2 years, and units sold dropped 26% to 215 million, the Institute reports. Beyond Meat is looking to solve for another issue, health perception, that the sector has faced, launching its new healthier burger in retail stores this spring. It features fewer ingredients, 20% less sodium, and 60% less saturated fat. The company says it's also made with avocado oil. Now, the catch is that it will remain in a higher price tier, but CEO Ethan Brown told me back in May after launch the company was confident that the health message it has will help to boost sales. The company's stock is down around 20+% year to date.
We do believe because the product has such a strong value proposition that it's not going to be an issue for consumers. We were probably the last in the category to do any pricing, yet we have now the most premium product. So we feel very good about it.
Beyond just the barbecue, plant-based meat companies have faced some challenges in restaurants, seeing lackluster demand at some major fast food companies like McDonald's in the U.S. while seeing success overseas. But Panda Express and Beyond Meat announced today a return of Beyond's orange chicken to its menus in the face of strong demand from its fans. Hallie?
Our thanks to Kate Rogers for that reporting. That does it for us for this hour. I'll find you tomorrow over on Nightly News, filling in for Lester Holt on this holiday weekday. But we've got more coverage ahead on NBC News Now, picking up right now. We are coming on the air with a triple threat of very intense weather tonight, with the eye wall of Hurricane Beryl slamming past Jamaica in just the last hour, extreme heat threatening millions across the U.S. this holiday weekend, and a dangerous fire that could be getting worse out in California. We're live coast to coast and in the Caribbean. Plus, a huge Democratic donor in just the last couple of minutes now calling on President Biden to step off the 2024 ticket as the White House and the campaign scramble to keep the dam from busting open more. Our reporters are fanned out tracking all of these late-breaking developments in what could be the most critical week politically of the Biden presidency. And another potentially historic election, this one over in the UK, with millions getting ready to hit the polls tomorrow. Why the Conservatives in power now could be about to lose in a landslide. We'll take you to London. Plus, the great escape for the holiday weekend. Record numbers of people on the road and in the sky. Our teams posted up in the middle of it all. Then in tonight's original, how musicians are getting priced out of the city they built thanks to tons of tourism and a Nashville boom. That's later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and in just the last hour, we are learning that the eye wall of Hurricane Beryl, so basically the center of this monster Cat 4 storm, is slamming past the south coast of Jamaica, which puts the country on the most dangerous side of this hurricane. Want to show you here the wind and the rain. It's really starting to pick up, with the expectation that a storm surge could be something like 6 to 9 feet. This storm has already turned deadly, killing at least 7 people across the Caribbean. The Jamaican Prime Minister declaring the island a disaster area, ordering some folks to evacuate. And look at this. The streets, our team on the ground was driving around, they're pretty empty, relatively. A curfew is still in place for the next hour, with another big question in the next couple of days, whether Beryl's going to make landfall in Mexico or somewhere along the coast of southern Texas. You can see the latest track, at least at the moment. Mexico's been getting more than 100 temporary shelters ready. They've shut down school there tomorrow and Friday. And then here at home, a different kind of dangerous weather is getting ready to hit parts of the U.S. Extremely hot temperatures, unusually hot temps in a blistering heat wave. 110 million people set to sit in some kind of a heat warning or watch across 21 states during the 4th of July holiday. More than 130 records could be set through next week. And that could make a bad situation worse in Northern California. Look at this. Thousands of people evacuated because of this massive wildfire in an area near Oroville. There's a bunch of smoke in the sky. You can see how thick it is. As of a few hours ago, it was 0% contained. Liz Kreutz is there. Bill Cairns has our forecast. But I want to start with Sam Brock in Kingston, Jamaica. And Sam, we're looking at some images of the destruction in other parts of the Caribbean. What's your sense of how things are going now where you are?
Right. So we know that it has been borderline apocalyptic in some of these other islands, really on the eastern side of the Caribbean, Hallie. We got an update today from the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, and they cited Union Island, which is part of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 98% of the buildings are either badly damaged or destroyed on that one island. You know, there was similar images coming out of Grenada as well. So obviously we see the potential for the sort of force and destruction that Beryl is able to levy. Here in, obviously, Jamaica, we're not necessarily experiencing anything on that scale. And this is actually quite lucky because where we are right now, we're a few miles from the coastline. This thing was 50 miles, 60 miles to our south, just a little bit closer, and we would have ended up with hurricane-strength winds. But instead, we peaked at an 81-mile-an-hour gust. That was near Jamaica's airport. And then we're also seeing all this rainfall coming down. In fact, we've been pounded in the last couple of hours. The rainfall numbers are starting to elevate to 5-6 inches in some places. And the bigger risk with that, Hallie, as we get into the nighttime and all this rain continues, assuming that happens for the next several hours, is that you have higher risk for like landslides and mudslides. And as the water saturates into the ground over the course of hours, it becomes more dangerous and more of a probability as night sets in. So right now, public officials looking at that, trying to get as many folks as they can out of harm's way and into shelters. The Prime Minister here, as you mentioned, did declare the entire island a disaster area. He just tweeted out a couple of hours ago that about 500 people have been taken to shelters. While that doesn't sound like a huge number, given the fact that Jamaica has a population of almost 3 million people, based on conversations that we were having with people on the ground where they didn't even want to leave and go anywhere else, 500, I suppose, is a victory under those circumstances.
You know, one of the things that Bill Cairns mentioned just not too long ago, Sam, was the idea that we shouldn't base our expectations or perceptions off this hurricane upon what you're standing in front of now, right? That because of where Kingston is, because of the geography of Jamaica, it is entirely possible that tomorrow morning we wake up to see potentially pretty intense destruction along the south coast. Is that something that you've heard from the folks you're talking to there as we're looking now at the track of Beryl?
Yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. I think as you go a little bit farther east of where we are, we know that the eastern edge of Jamaica, definitely we're hearing reports of buildings that were damaged, a church that had a giant concave hole in it, and it's not over yet. It's a very fair point, Hallie. We're still getting some pretty vicious outer bands. I had a conversation with a business owner earlier today, someone that I actually met coming out here, who has owned her family business, a grocery store, for 70 years. It's been this seed that has helped her loved ones, including both of her sons, go to college in the United States, and she was really worried that it might not be functional, that there could be bad damage, could be flooding when she gets back tomorrow. And she kind of sort of put for me into perspective how important it is that does not happen. Her name is Carolyn Yap. Here's a listen. What are your greatest fears as we await the landfall of the storm?
I'm more afraid for my employees. We are like family. They are family. I think they will survive. I don't think their homes may not.
And Hallie, she also mentioned some of her employees are living in buildings that are houses that are structurally sound, others not as much, and there's a wide spectrum there. And I understand, again, the wind's not exactly what we expected. Yeah. Could have been really bad. It's not over yet, and we are just getting another pounding of rain as I talk to you right now.
You're definitely not dry, Sam Brock. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No.
Thank you. Be safe, you and your crew. Thank you. Let me bring Liz Kreutz now, who's out in California in a very different kind of element, still weathering it, Liz, and that is the intense heat there, which is probably making it tough to fight this Oroville fire. Talk us through it.
Hey, Hallie, yeah, that heat is brutal for the firefighters here. We're in an excessive heat warning really for all across the state right now. And these red flag warning conditions, 4 million people here in California under red flag warning. That means conditions ripe for fire. High heat, low humidity, and strong winds, which are starting to pick up right now. This is the time of day we start to see it. And here's what a CAL FIRE spokesperson had to tell me about the biggest challenge they're facing right now as these crews try to get control of this fire.
Anybody would know that it's tough to do things outdoors when it's warm. So think about the firefighters that are doing that, but they're doing difficult, arduous work, wearing long sleeve coats, helmets, and really heavy warm clothing. So it does make it a challenge.
And we are told that 8 firefighters have been injured fighting this fire, Hallie, some of them from heat-related illnesses, heat stroke, heat exhaustion, that type of thing. You can just see some of the destruction here behind me. This is on a street where several homes burned. You can see the exposed brick of that fireplace. These cars here burned to a crisp. This is just some of the destruction from this fire. Tens of thousands, I think about nearly 30,000 people have had to evacuate from this area just ahead of the July 4th holiday because of this fire now, Hallie.
And in a very different note, on July 4th, some places across the state have had to cancel plans for the holiday, right, because of the heat?
Yeah, they have. In the Bay Area specifically, there's the city of Antioch and the East Bay going to see triple-digit temperatures. They have canceled their 4th of July parade because of an excessive heat warning there. And in the North Bay, the Bay Area, in Napa County, the town of St. Helena, right in the heart of wine country, they have canceled their traditional July 4th fireworks because of the fire concern of igniting fireworks during these red flag warning conditions. Hallie.
Liz Kreutz live for us in Oroville. Liz, thank you. Bill Cairns, let me bring you into this because I have to think, I know hot in California, but it's not just there. You're looking at Vegas and some other spots too with unusually hot heat, even in July.
See, Hallie, I was curious because Liz is obviously wearing like the jacket,
I know,
kind of like the heavy.
Yeah, I know.
And I was like, I wonder what the temperature is there because I know it's really warm, so I plotted it. It's 105 in the shade. She was, I don't know how, I'd be a puddle on the ground.
She's a pro, man.
Yeah, I know. Not let alone thinking of the firefighters out there, like in the flames and in the heat of the, fighting that in all of their gear. Can you imagine? Yeah, not for the faint of heart. So 105 today, only going to get hotter, and fighting those brutal conditions and fighting the fire at the same time. Vegas, by the way, now inching up to 113. The number to keep track of over the next couple of days for Vegas is 117. They've reached that a couple of times. They've never in their history exceeded it. Yes, there's a lot more pavement now in Vegas than there ever was. It continues to grow, but this is still going to be an outstanding period, though easily the warmest 3 days they've ever recorded, and maybe even their warmest ever coming up this weekend. So let's talk about it. So Palm Springs, we've been mentioning you heading up to the 120 mark. Sacramento, solidly for at least 3-4 days, right around 110. And they're not alone. It's all through interior sections of California, just outside the Bay. Unless you're right on the coast, it's just going to be brutally hot. Still very warm in El Paso, but this is kind of more typical. The exceptional stuff is from the desert Southwest all the way through California. And in Vegas, I was mentioning, 117 is the hottest ever. So 115 Saturday, 117 could tie the all-time record Sunday, Monday 118. This is the hottest 3 days anyone that's ever been, since we've been recording weather, has ever experienced in Las Vegas. So yeah, that's that. I mean, we've been talking about this heat nonstop, Hallie, since about end of May.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? And one of the things, and you've done this show enough that you know what our refrain is, which is in the winter we say, it's always cold in winter. It always snows in winter. When is it unusual? Same deal with the summer, right? It's always hot in summer, but as you so capably point out, this is extreme here. The other thing that's unusual is just how strong, and I'm looking behind you at the track of Beryl, which is going past the south coast of Jamaica. What's the expectation?
Yeah, it's eerie when, when I look at this, and I know there's a Category 4. I think by now a lot of us know the kind of damage that a Category 4 storm can do. And then we see the pictures of Sam. He's located not far from the storm. He's only about 80 miles away. Yeah. But, that core of the hurricane, you want to avoid that 30 to 40-mile circle around that center, because that's where all the destruction takes place. And unfortunately, it's kind of wobbled its way right along the coast as the sun is starting to set here. We're starting to lose our picture of our visible satellite image. But this is where the 140-mile-per-hour winds are. This is where the destruction is taking place here. So the eastern half of the island, there's going to be some power outages, some downed trees. You had gusts up to 81 in Kingston. There was a storm, but it wasn't knock your roof off type stuff that they're having right now, and also that storm surge on the southern portions of the coast here of Jamaica. So tonight the storm goes by the Cayman Islands, and then it's going to head towards the Yucatan. And this has been a very resilient storm. It peaked at 165. It was supposed to be down about 130 by now, maybe 125. It stayed at 140, a little stronger than any of the forecast models or any forecaster thought it would. Now it looks like it could even go into areas of the Yucatan here, south of Tulum, north of Chemal, most likely as a Category 2, maybe Category 1. So that's going to be a little more impactful than they were even thinking. And then the million-dollar question is, once it gets over the warm water, once again in the Gulf of Mexico, what's left of it? Does it have enough time, and will the winds be favorable enough in the upper levels that it can spin itself back up? And that is going to be the question here. It looks like it's either going to be South Texas or northern Mexico, somewhere between, I'd say, Brownsville to Tampico. But notice that trend to the north. So even if we get a landfall, say, in northern Mexico, we'll still have storm surge issues, and we'll still have heavy rainfall in South Texas. And here's our spaghetti line. So we're not ruling out South Texas yet. The biggest question is, at what intensity will it be when it gets there? There's a big difference if it's a tropical storm or, say, a Category 2 hurricane.
Bill Cairns, you'll be watching it. You'll be busy this weekend. Thank you. So listen, here in Washington, another evening of a lot of late-breaking developments here, including yet another public call for the president to step aside from a sitting lawmaker, and now from a top Democratic donor in just the last couple of minutes. President Biden himself, in just a few minutes from now, is set to meet with some Democratic governors at the White House and virtually. We're learning in literally the last couple of minutes that Vice President Harris will join that discussion as well. So here's the deal. You've now got this Arizona congressman becoming only the second House Democrat to say that President Biden should drop off the 2024 ticket. That was in an interview with the New York Times in just the last hour. The Times is also hearing from the co-founder of Netflix, big Democratic donor, who is also calling on President Biden to step aside, Reed Hastings, according to an email that he sent the paper. But the president's telling his staff, and he's been clear on this today, that he is not going to. He says, I am running. No one is pushing me out. He said on this discussion, I am not leaving. I'm in this race to the end. He says we're going to win, according to an official on the line. The White House and the campaign are also pushing back on reports that privately the president's talking to at least one ally about whether or not to stay in the race, with his chief of staff telling the team to tune out the intense noise as the president faces the biggest challenge politically of his term yet. All of it triggered by what's being widely panned as that disastrous debate performance.
The president is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race.
There are a number of rumors floating out there. The president is in this race to win it.
Now, outside the White House, well, you've got this view. We love you, Joe, and your candidacy from some demonstrators outside the fence. A little further down Pennsylvania Avenue, no real huge push today from lawmakers on the Hill to try to close ranks around President Biden. And now you've got damage control in full-on mode. Look at this. All these calls, the staff, the campaign staff, the governors, you've got a Medal of Honor ceremony, et cetera. The lunch, by the way, between the president and Vice President Harris today. That's interesting, considering some of the speculation surrounds whether she would take the top of the ticket if President Biden drops out. And one of the complicating factors here, new polling showing support for President Biden slipping since the debate. You see it there. We've got team coverage. I want to start with Monica Alba with the latest from the White House. So here we are, a couple of minutes from this high-profile, high-stakes, closed-door, importantly, meeting between Democratic governors and the president and now the vice president. Talk us through the expectations.
Well, we know that there are going to be about 20 governors in total in attendance, Hallie. About half, I'm told, so 10 or so will be in person. And this did come together kind of quickly, so it's notable those who thought, hey, if I can get on a plane and be there, I want to be there to hear directly from the president. And maybe some of them are also thinking, I want to assess for myself whatever the president says, whatever the vice president says about their potential path forward here. And they remain totally dug in, saying that they are going to continue the fight, and that will be the message I'm told that we expect they will convey to these governors. But it's notable because of also the governors who we expect to attend, who are people who have been talked about as being the future of the party, essentially, as people who want to maybe run in 2028, or who maybe before that would be in the mix or a conversation should there be a major change to the current top of the ticket, which, again, the White House insists and the Biden campaign insists that that's not going to happen. And it was the president himself who said that declaratively on this campaign call. That I think it's also notable to point out that the fact that he joined to have to say this was really meant to amplify this message they wanted to convey today from the president himself, which is, no one is pushing me out. I'm not going anywhere. And he pledged to still be the nominee in November, and he pledged to win. And the vice president effectively said, Joe Biden has been fighting for you guys for years. It's now our turn, she said in her words, to fight for him. Hallie.
Monica, one of the things in the days after this debate, because here we are now nearly a week out, that you heard, others heard from the Biden campaign was this idea that, like, let's give it a beat. Let's sort of see what happens. People were saying privately with polling and with donors. We are now starting to see, especially today, some of the polling now from the days after the debate, so showing that President Biden has slipped to a degree. You are now seeing, too, on the donor front, I mean, Reed Hastings coming out and saying, as the New York Times framed it, what they believe some donors are saying privately, that the president should step aside. How long is the White House, is the Biden campaign going to give it? What do they think the right time frame is here?
The initial sense was maybe a week or two before we see the full picture from polling. So the fact that, to your point, we're 6 days in here, that is why I think the Biden campaign sent an email to the entire staff this morning in Wilmington to let them know, hey, guys, heads up, you should brace for some difficult polling that may come today. And specifically, they were referring to that New York Times polling that you just mentioned as well. So they knew that that was likely going to be coming as maybe the first wave, and that there could be other polls that really show this shift in the race. At the same time, they continue to insist, Biden campaign officials do, that their internal polling suggests the race is still very tight, very competitive within the margin of error in some of the key battlegrounds. And so they're trying to lean on that message. But privately, Hallie, I can definitely tell you that my sources have indicated that they are still watching the polling very closely, and that if there is this massive shift or change, the pressure on that externally will likely be so great that it's not something they can continue to dismiss as they have been so far.
Monica Alba doing just incredible work there outside the White House every day, day and night. Mon, you're tireless. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ryan Nobles is joining us now. You're tireless too, friend. You're doing a great job too. Listen, one of the things, just coming up with Monica, this idea that polling is going to be critical. It's critical for the people you're talking to. And I have to wonder if it's going to be less of sort of a massive shift. And if anything, if it's going to be anything, maybe more of a drip, 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 right? 1,000 cuts here with a little polling here, a little polling there. It's going to dribble out over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Well, I think one thing is clear, Hallie. At some point, the news has to start getting better. And it seems as though with each passing day, as Democrats are taking this information in and trying to decipher what the next step is forward, that they need some sort of positive indication that things are heading in the right direction. I think sometimes we aren't taking into consideration enough that heading into the debate, Biden was really behind. You know, it was within the margin of error, but most of the polls showed him trailing nationally and trailing in a lot of the key battlegrounds. It's not getting better. These polls are not showing that things are getting better as a result of this debate. So everybody that I've talked to, they've got a couple of big markers that they're waiting to see over the next couple of days. This meeting that's happening right now with Democratic governors, if those governors feel better coming out of that meeting, that's certainly going to help. But then you have this interview that he's going to do with ABC.
So is that going to be a pivot point? I mean, he's sitting down with George Stephanopoulos on Friday, ABC. We're going to start to see some of that coming out then. Is that going to, I mean, God, I can't think of a more high-profile interview, you know, at least politically in the last couple of years.
I don't think that... I think that that's going to be the make or break moment. In fact, I had one Democratic advisor say to me, this is a make or break moment. Wow. If he doesn't come out of that interview, and it can't just be unscathed. He can't just keep the playing field as it currently stands. He needs to far exceed the expectations that we currently have for him. Otherwise, this persistent concern that exists among rank-and-file Democrats is only going to continue and will intensify when they're all back in town next week.
I mean, he's going to be in Milwaukee, or excuse me, he's going to be in Wisconsin, critical battleground state, obviously, on Friday. You've got July 4th tomorrow. You haven't seen, however, Ryan, and you know this from people that you're talking to, a huge closing of the ranks behind President Biden. It doesn't feel like it did the day after, when you had people coming out and immediately, former President Obama, former President Clinton, telling everybody to chill out. That didn't seem to stick so well.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people that we're talking to, especially the ones that are talking publicly, they're not calling on him to step down, but they're not really giving him this intense level of support that would indicate that they feel comfortable where things currently stand. And I think that's very telling right now. The idea that they're even opening the door to this idea that he might not be the nominee is not a place that Joe Biden wants to be in. When you have Jim Clyburn openly advocating for Kamala Harris if he were to step aside, when you have Nancy Pelosi suggesting that maybe he should take a cognitive test.
Does he have a medical condition she's openly musing?
Yeah, right. These are all things that you wouldn't expect to see happen within a presidential campaign. I think it's pretty safe to say we're talking about this in the same realm that we were talking about the Access Hollywood tape in 2016. Two completely different issues. They're not on the same moral plan. I'm not trying to suggest that at all. But at that time, you had all these Republican leaders openly questioning whether or not Donald Trump should still be their nominee. We're in a similar territory right now, and the president has a very, very small window of time to turn that conversation in a different direction, or else this could be a lost situation.
There are some who are saying Democrats have to chill. Everybody's got to rally around the president. You spoke with one of those people today.
Yeah, right. And that's
great assault on the source, but, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I talked to Congressman Mike Quigley from Illinois. You know, I mean, I think everybody feels...
I was referencing your Lincoln Project contact.
Yes. Oh, right. Stuart Stevens. Yes. I talked to Stuart Stevens from the Lincoln Project, who feels...
Never Trumper.
Right. A never Trumper. He's almost annoyed by the way that Democrats are complaining about this. And he even said that when he was a Republican, the reason he won a lot of races is because Democrats did this kind of thing where they bedwetted a little bit and overreacted to the polls like this.
There are Democrats who have said publicly, and I don't want to name names, I think it was, I won't say, who have said, I don't like the phrase bedwet. This isn't bedwetting. That's too dismissive, right? This is real concern.
Yeah, and the more it's dismissed, I think the more you're going to see people be anxious about the current situation.
Are you working tomorrow?
No, I'm going to enjoy the day with my family.
Okay, very good.
I'm not going to think about this.
I'm sure you'll be getting a few text messages, probably from me. Ryan Nobles, thank you, friend. Appreciate it. It is not just political drama here at home, but overseas as well in the UK, because there you've got political leaders tonight making their closing arguments before voters head to the polls tomorrow to elect a new parliament. And in the process, a new prime minister who will become the leader of one of America's closest allies. Polls suggest it's going to be a landslide, with the center-left Labour Party expected to win big, maybe its biggest majority ever, and tossing the Conservatives out of power after 14 years. Now, the leader of whichever party wins will end up leading the country, meaning Labour head Keir Starmer, again, based on polling, looks pretty likely to end up Britain's next prime minister. Raf Sanchez is joining us now. Bring us up to speed. For those of us, you know, telling on a friend, myself here, who have been immersed in, like, United States political coverage, how did Britain get to where it is at this point where Labour seems to be on the brink of this huge sort of rise?
So, Hallie, we are in the last 24 hours of this lightning fast compared to the United States 6-week British election. 24 hours from now, we will have a pretty good sense who is going to walk through that famous black door of 10 Downing Street as Britain's prime minister. And as you said, the polls are telling a very, very convincing story that it is going to be Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party. And what we are finding is not so much that there is overwhelming support for Labour, overwhelming enthusiasm for Keir Starmer, as much as people here are just exhausted after 14 years of Conservative government, the last 8 of which, Hallie, have been a period of unprecedented political chaos in this country. You'll remember the 2016 Brexit referendum when people here voted to leave the European Union. Since then, you have had 4 Conservative prime ministers forced to resign. That includes Boris Johnson, forced out of office after breaking his own COVID lockdown rules, attending illegal parties here at Downing Street. Liz Truss, who was only in office for 44 days, her policies nearly crashing the British economy. And so people are turning now to Starmer. He is seen as capable, he is seen as competent, and he is seen as a safe pair of hands. Hallie?
Okay, so let's say it does end up being Prime Minister Starmer. What would that mean for the relationship with the United States?
So it's really interesting. Starmer is a centrist. He is someone who supports NATO. He is someone who supports Western support for Ukraine. Every indication is, in terms of personality, in terms of politics, in terms of policy, he would be very compatible with President Biden. But 6 months from now, you could have a Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, sitting across the table from a second-term President Trump, who has very different views on that. We spoke to Labour's campaign chief earlier, and we asked him, does Keir Starmer have what it takes to stand up to Donald Trump if he tries to take the United States out of NATO, if he tries to cut Western support for Ukraine? This Labour official told us Starmer will stand up for what he believes in. He will keep the weapons. He will keep the money flowing to Ukraine. He has already spoken a number of times in the last year to Jake Sullivan. And if he does win, we expect that on Friday, one of his first phone calls will be with President Biden. Hallie?
So interesting. Raf Sanchez, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Coming up, do you think a 4-day work week sounds nice? Why Greece is going in the opposite direction. But first, a 4th person has now tested positive for the bird flu. I'll tell you where and how they got it. Planning a Nashville trip for that next bachelorette? Well, the locals have something to say about it in tonight's original. But first, as we speak right now, over the course of this hour, we are in the middle of what AAA describes as the peak of the holiday week travel rush. And guess what? This one's a record setter, folks. Up 5% from last year, with nearly 71 million of us heading out of town. At the airports, 500,000 more people than last year, with the TSA screening more than 2.5 million folks just yesterday. But a lot of those travelers may be heading into some of that rough weather we talked about, that intense heat, maybe some storms. I want to bring in NBC's Priya Sridhar, who's following all of this from the world's busiest airport, Atlanta. Talk us through any delays so far, anything you're seeing. Are people like in a good mood, or are they ticked?
Well, I think overall everyone seems to be pretty happy. It's summer and a lot of people are traveling to someplace fun, perhaps a holiday with their family, working from home, taking the kids who are on summer break. As far as delays go, things are looking a lot better than yesterday. We have slightly over 3,000 delays nationwide compared to yesterday. That was closer to the 5,000 number. So things are looking pretty good. As far as where the delays are coming from, the origin airports are the usual suspects: Chicago, O'Hare, Newark, which reported that the FAA reported there that they were having a shortage in air traffic controllers, which is contributing to some of the delays there. We anticipate, and also Atlanta and JFK. As far as flight cancellations go, the most significant that we're seeing are due to Hurricane Beryl, that I know you guys have been talking a lot about. The airports there in Kingston and Montego Bay are completely shut down, so those flights have all been canceled. But the FAA actually says that only 1.4% of all the flights in 2024 have been canceled, which is actually at a 10-year low, Hallie.
What about where people are going this year? Like, what are the biggest July 4th hotspots?
Yeah, I mean, I was dying to know this. Some of them are a little bit of a surprise. So domestically, it looks like the top destination to travel for July 4th is actually Seattle, Washington, followed by Orlando, Florida, Anchorage, Alaska, Honolulu, Hawaii, and Miami, Florida. Now, as far as international travel, top destination, Vancouver, Canada, followed by 4 European destinations, London, Rome, Dublin, and Paris, France. And so a lot of people, as you mentioned, record-breaking travel. Domestic airfare is actually down 18% since last summer. So the average price of a domestic ticket right now is $263. So a lot of people are prioritizing travel. They're quiet vacationing, as we were talking about before, and they're just deciding that they want to go somewhere fun and new.
Yeah.
Hallie?
Priya Sridhar, Atlanta's fun and new, hopefully for you and me, and good, it's a good spot to be. Priya, thank you so much. Appreciate it. To tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight's the cost of living hitting one hot spot hard, with America's music capital more popular than ever, thanks to those Nashville destination concerts, those bachelorettes. But while all that explosive growth may be good for tourists, locals say they're feeling the pinch, spending more on, well, everything just to get by. Our Kathy Park reports.
Nashville built its foundation on music. But these days, it's becoming harder and harder for many musicians to live there, as Music City has transformed into one of the nation's fastest growing boom towns, with a record 16.8 million visitors last year, adding nearly 90 people a day to its population. And it's not just people. Amazon, Alliance Bernstein, and soon Oracle will be calling Nashville home.
18 years ago, we had more people than we had jobs. Now we have more jobs than we have people.
Experts say companies are drawn to Tennessee's business-friendly environment, relocating from expensive and dense locations. Another perk? No state income tax for workers.
And if it wasn't for the city, we wouldn't be as successful as we are.
Brian Fuente, a singer turned entrepreneur, launched AeroBuild, a company that builds mobile businesses.
A lot of craftsmanship that goes in each one.
30% of their workforce is made up of musicians.
The production team only works 4-day work weeks, so on the weekends they're playing music.
It's a model that helps strike a balance for employees like Dustin Bothwell, a singer who struggles to keep up with the high cost of living.
Houses are bought and you get an eviction notice. You know, it's harder to live here as an artist than it used to be, I feel like. I've only been here 6 years.
According to a recent Redfin analysis and the latest home prices, a family needed to earn roughly $129,000 a year to afford the median price home worth $478,000.
It has become unaffordable.
Jalen Raymer is feeling the crunch too after moving her cowboy hats and boots business from New York City to Nashville in 2020.
You want to try it all for me?
But corporate events and tourists have helped her small shop thrive.
They're ready to go downtown and giddy up and have a great old time down in Nash Vegas.
Some say the heartbeat of Nashville is right here in the Broadway district, seeing even more growth with the popularity of country music.
Jolene, Jolene. It's good to see the redevelopment, but it's a little hectic.
A city soaring to new heights, but on the way up, feeling the growing pains.
A few of my favorite spots have had to disappear because of the growth. I kind of miss the charm.
Do you think city planners underestimated Nashville's growth?
I think it would be a rare person that told you they expected the growth to be like this.
Kathy Park is joining us now. I mean, been to Broadway, right? Nashville's a fun spot. Yeah. It's also super popular, not just, you know, all year round, but especially here 4th of July, big music celebration, right? Talk us through that piece of it.
Yeah, so, Hallie, Nashville hosts one of the largest July 4th fireworks shows in the country, and this year it'll be headlined by country music star Chris Young, and every year they see more than 200,000 spectators, and when you look at the numbers from last year, the event generated $11.6 million in visitor spending alone. Organizers are anticipating another big turnout tomorrow, but of course, weather is always a wild card with these outdoor events, but Hallie, a lot of folks are still looking forward to it.
Kathy Park, thank you very much. Good to see you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Delta apologizing today after a flight was diverted because passengers were served food that had gone bad. The plane was going from Detroit to Amsterdam. It ended up unexpectedly at JFK in New York. The fire department there says first responders treated a dozen passengers. It's not clear how many people ended up eating the spoiled food. Number 2, we're learning a 4th person has now tested positive for the bird flu. The CDC says this person worked at a dairy farm in Colorado where the cows had also tested positive. The patient had eye symptoms, but fortunately recovered after taking some meds. Number 3, Hatch Baby is recalling nearly 1 million power adapters because of a shock hazard issue. They come with the company's Rest first generation sound machine. You just saw them there. This is like Amazon, Target, Bye Bye Baby, etc. Hatch says it got more than a dozen reports of the plastic covering around the adapter coming off. Unplug it if you've got it. The company says you'll get a replacement if you send it in. Number 4, Bob's Stores is shutting down. You know Bob's, the discount clothing company. They recently filed for bankruptcy. Watch for those liquidation sales at Bob's Stores soon. They've been in business for 70 years. Number 5, LeBron James agreeing to a 2-year, wait for it, $104 million maximum contract with the LA Lakers. He also wants a no-trade clause. He got it. Why? On his 22nd NBA season. Think about it. His son Bronny was just drafted by the Lakers. He said he wants to play with his son. They're going to be the first father-son duo in NBA history to take the same court. Later on in the show, the son of Tom Hanks and his cringy song taking on a new controversial meaning. We'll tell you how the alt-right co-opted White Boy Summer and what Chet Hanks is now saying about it. Plus, one K-pop star has a new job ahead of the Olympics in the Global. First responders not responding. We're going to break down some 911 breakdowns. But first, tonight, a slogan coined by the son of a Hollywood star has now turned into a global call to action for far-right extremist groups, according to a new report out today. We're talking about Chet Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, and the song White Boy Summer came out a couple years ago, 2021. At the time, pretty cringy, some profanity, some slurs. But since then, that phrase, White Boy Summer, it's turned into a kind of slogan for white supremacists and other hate groups, according to the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. Now, Chet Hanks just today is posting this on Instagram, that White Boy Summer, he says, was created to be fun, playful. Anything else that it's been twisted into to support any kind of hate or bigotry against any group of people is deplorable, and I condemn it. Rahima Ellis is joining us now. How did this happen? How did so-called White Boy Summer end up co-opted by these white supremacists and others?
It seems catchy for white supremacists, just like the term White Lives Matter. It seems catchy. And as you point out, that this group, the group called the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism, which was founded by some former members of the Southern Poverty Law Center, they're about tracking what's going on in this country as far as hate and anti-Semitism is concerned. And they noticed that there were thousands of posts using the slogan that appeared on something called the Telegraph app this year, associated with white supremacy. And Chet Hanks, he became disturbed about it, and he put out that post today that this is not something that he condones. In fact, he points out to the fact that at the end of his music video, he has a shirt, and I think we have a picture of him wearing this shirt. On the back of the shirt, it says, "Stop Hate" T-shirt. So he's trying to say clearly there that he's not in favor of what white supremacists are doing with his slogan.
This is also not the first time that something that was never intended to be, a flag for extremist groups ended up co-opted, like a slogan, a phrase, an image, or whatever, for something that wasn't in its intended meaning.
Yeah, it's really true. There's a phrase called Pepe the Frog. It was a comic book character that white supremacists latched onto, and the creator of that cartoon character was so incensed by it, he took it down and basically killed, if you will, the character itself. But that didn't stop people from continuing to use it. There's also a Celtic cross that has been used by white supremacists. And it seems in some measure there's very little that people can do to stop this. As much as they try, it seems to be spreading. And what's more disturbing to some people, it seems to be moving into conservative events, even like that banner that you showed at your intro and to me, where someone was, the guy was raising a flag that said White Boy Summer. That flag was presented at a conservative rally in Detroit just last month. Donald Trump was the keynote speaker at that event, along with several conservative members of Congress, including J.D. Vance and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hallie?
Rahima Ellis, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. In Sierra Leone, a bill banning child marriage is now getting signed into law. It criminalizes marrying any girl under 18 years old. Offenders face up to 15 years in prison, a fine of around $4,000 or both. Witnesses to any child marriage will also face prison time or a fine. About a third of girls there marry before adulthood. Out of Greece, new legislation is creating some controversy because it makes people work more. 6-day work week. It affects employees at private businesses that provide round-the-clock services. They'll reportedly have the option of working 2 more hours per day or an extra 8-hour shift. The regulation bucks this global trend we've been seeing of companies exploring a shorter work week. And Jin, the oldest member of K-pop supergroup BTS, is set to be an Olympic torchbearer at the Games. He's 31. He's going to represent South Korea in the torch relay. And in a statement, he says he hopes to spread a message of harmony and peace. You may remember Jin finished mandatory military service last month. Tonight, new scrutiny on a service that could be life-saving. Those wireless networks that connect our emergency calls when we're in trouble. Networks in the spotlight recently for major outages. Like, remember that big one from AT&T back in February that lasted half a day? This is becoming a growing concern for 911 call centers, they say, all around the country. And in tonight's breakdown, our Brian Chung takes a closer look.
In an emergency, you know to call 911.
911, where's your emergency?
But what happens if you can't? That nightmare scenario recently playing out several times across the country.
Massive nationwide cell phone outage.
What if I can't call 911? What do I do now? And that's what causes me sleepless nights.
Just last month, 911 emergency systems were down across Massachusetts for hours. And in April, an installation of a light pole cut out service, leading to issues calling 911 in at least 3 states. But most notable this year, a nationwide outage in February cutting AT&T service for thousands of customers for about half a day. AT&T apologized to customers and said it was implementing changes to prevent a repeat.
So as soon as the call comes in, it shows up on this map.
Tony Rose is the Deputy Director of Emergency Services in Charles County, Maryland. While not impacted by those major events this year, he's noticed problems becoming more frequent.
Because we've transitioned from old technology, the old copper phone line system, to this new IP network world that we live in, right, with smart devices.
So where are these problems coming from?
Could be human error. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a mechanical failure.
But either way, are outages across the board increasing in frequency in your view?
Yes.
Authorities are taking a look as well. In addition to a Federal Communications Commission investigation into the February AT&T issue, New York State said it would probe the telecom provider as well. Just last week, the FCC said Verizon Wireless would pay over $1 million for a 911 outage in 2022 that prevented hundreds of calls from completing, putting pressure on the companies to improve.
There's a matter of investment on the part of the carriers to ensure greater network reliability.
Rose says families need to plan for emergency situations where you can't reach 911. Among the recommendations, a landline, Wi-Fi calling, using a phone on another carrier, or the SOS feature on select phones if available, which basically uses roaming or satellites in emergencies.
Worst case scenario is know where the closest fire station or police station is at.
Whatever you do, don't call 911 just to test if it works. That could clog up resources. Rose says just like dialing 911 has become an instinct, so should planning for the worst-case scenario when you can't.
Typically, with a hurricane, you have at least 72 hours of notice that is coming. In a 911 disruption or carrier disruption, there's no notice.
Brian is joining us now. So interesting, Brian. Talk to us about whether there's any collaboration now between the government, the carriers, these call centers, et cetera. Where does that stand?
Yeah, and Tony Rose, who you heard from there, he's in Charles County. He was saying that his county, in addition to a number of other emergency call centers in other counties in the metropolitan Washington region, they get together on a regular basis with the carriers themselves as well as other officials in the government to talk about these types of issues and just general hygiene and making sure that they can prevent those types of outages from happening in the future. Now, AT&T tells NBC News that in that February 22nd incident, it tried to prioritize getting back up FirstNet. This is basically a communications channel that first responders use to talk to each other. But again, there are some much needed questions about the overall infrastructure, something that maybe Congress can address with dollars specifically into next-gen 911. This is an effort to try to turn the 911 system into something a little bit more modernized where you can even text it, which would be very important for accessibility for those that might have disabilities. That means that this is really an all-team effort here, Hallie.
Brian Chung, thank you. Still to come here on the show, the mushroom candy people said was making them sick, now possibly to blame for somebody's death. Our medical experts are all over this one. We've got the update on what you should know next. We're learning today the FDA is now investigating a death that might be linked to those now recalled mushroom chocolates we've told you about. Remember, people were getting really sick after eating this candy from the brand Diamond Shrooms. Some people, at least, throwing up, having seizures, even blacking out. 48 people say they had some of these very severe symptoms after eating the candy. 27 ended up in the hospital. Now, the manufacturer, Profit Premium Blends, did not immediately respond to our request for comment. But again, the FDA is now investigating apparently a death. Dr. Natalie Azar is joining us now. How did this go so wrong, apparently?
Yeah, I know. You know, the FDA and the CDC are both investigating and sending out a lot of health alerts about these products. The company, the manufacturer, has basically said that the compound that is in these products that is making people sick is this thing called muskimol, which probably is not familiar to most people. It is derived from a certain, family or genus of mushrooms and can be very toxic and even fatal at high doses. It can cause changes in behavior, in mood, in perception, in cognition. It's scary, right? I mean, but this is one of those things, again, where this industry is not necessarily regulated. And so whether or not this was intentional or adulterated, I think the FDA is going to eventually let us know.
What about, mushroom is one of those things that you see a lot, like on the algorithm, whatever, like mushroom this, whatever that, coffee, etc. What about other products that are not this, that are out there? Should people have concerns about those too, or no reason for that yet?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I think it's one of those things where we don't know what we don't know. And, there was just a recent article in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, and these experts have really been calling for state and federal regulators to take a very clear stance on, first of all, whether or not it's even legal to sell or manufacture anything with this compound muskimol in it. And if it is deemed to be legal, there needs to be, things like maximum dose and child-proof packaging and things like that. Like, Hallie, I always say to our viewers and to patients alike, it is a little bit of like the wild, wild west and, buyer beware in terms of these kinds of products. What you see on the label is not necessarily what is in these things. And this is a lesson really that has been learned the hard way for the dozens of people who've become ill and even hospitalized. And unfortunately, with this one death, the FDA will be investigating to see if it is, in fact, directly related to this product.
Dr. Natalie Azar, good words of wisdom. Thank you very much. Still ahead, is plant-based meat sizzling out? While you may not see it at your 4th of July barbecue tomorrow. It is the kickoff to the famous Nathan's hot dog eating contest today, starting with a weigh-in ahead of the main event tomorrow. You see some of the contenders there, but noticeably missing this guy, the man synonymous with this tradition, Joey Chestnut. 16 hot dog eating titles under his belt, but he's not going to be competing because of his endorsement deal this year with a Nathan's competitor, a plant-based faux meat company. But even with high-profile backers, vegan meat generally seems to be struggling lately. Think about it. Are you having it at your 4th of July barbecue? CNBC's Kate Rogers crunched the numbers. She's got more.
Champion eater Joey Chestnut made headlines this summer for signing on as an ambassador for alt meat company Impossible Foods, taking him out of contention for the Nathan's eating competition. He's won in the past more than a dozen times, but it remains to be seen if other customers get in on the plant-based barbecue action this holiday. The pandemic provided a big boost to the plant-based meat sector, but it's not been one that's sustainable due to varying challenges for the industry. The Good Food Institute, which is a nonprofit think tank tracking the industry, outlines taste, texture, and pricing as 3 key hurdles to overcome in its latest report of 2023 trends. Now, overall plant-based meat and seafood sales, it says, were down 13% over the last 2 years, and units sold dropped 26% to 215 million, the Institute reports. Beyond Meat is looking to solve for another issue, health perception, that the sector has faced, launching its new healthier burger in retail stores this spring. It features fewer ingredients, 20% less sodium, and 60% less saturated fat. The company says it's also made with avocado oil. Now, the catch is that it will remain in a higher price tier, but CEO Ethan Brown told me back in May after launch the company was confident that the health message it has will help to boost sales. The company's stock is down around 20+% year to date.
We do believe, because the product has such a strong value proposition, that it's not going to be an issue for consumers. We were probably the last in the category to do any pricing, yet we have now the most premium product. So we feel very good about it.
Beyond just the barbecue, plant-based meat companies have faced some challenges in restaurants, seeing lackluster demand at some major fast food companies like McDonald's in the U.S. while seeing success overseas. But Panda Express and Beyond Meat announced today a return of Beyond's orange chicken to its menus in the face of strong demand from its fans. Hallie?
Our thanks to Kate Rogers for that reporting. That does it for us for this hour. I'll find you tomorrow over on Nightly News, filling in for Lester Holt on this holiday weekday. But we've got more coverage ahead on NBC News Now, picking up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.